Welcome to Air Denna Michelle. Should the cabin lose pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the overhead area. Please place your mask over your own mouth and nose before assisting others. Enjoy your flight. We hear this every time before we take off in the plane. This is true for our everyday life. We need to take care of ourselves before helping others, and that includes the children who are around us. Let the coaches at Denna Michelle help you to learn to take care of yourself first to be better for the children around you. Coaching works on the idea that you have all of the answers inside of you. The job of the coach is simply just to help you realize your potential and be confident in yourself as you are imperfectly perfect. Our caring and knowledgeable coaches at Denna Michelle are standing by to help you solve any painful or difficult parts about caring for children. Whether you need help with challenging behaviors, dealing with trauma or stress, or if you just need basic best practices, or you just want to boost your confidence, we can help. Coaching Calls with Denna Michelle is designed to help you to map out a path that will help you to reach your goals and make life easier for you and the children you care for. When you're ready, you can connect with one of our awesome coaches. To schedule a call, you can go to www.dennamichelle.com. That's www.dennamichelle.com. Or you can email us at teamdm@dennamichelle.com. Or you can reach us by phone at 414-207-4525.
Hey, Mom. Hey, welcome to your favorite podcast, Letters to an Imperfectly Perfect Mom. This show delivers parenting, positivity, and a promise for moms to know we don't have to be perfect. Each week, we want to inspire you to take what you hear, develop your knowledge, improve your habits, and boost your confidence. All of that is to help you be a successful mom for your children. Remember, it's okay to be imperfect, and that's exactly what makes you perfect. Now, here's your host, Coach Denna Michelle.
Dear co-parenting mom, what is co-parenting? Co-parenting is a situation where the parents are not married, or they're not living together, or they're not even in a romantic relationship together. This is usually described when parents live separate and they're still both trying to take care of the children. This is different than being a single parent. Being a single parent just means that one of the parents is completely out of the picture or very seldomly are in the picture. And it is also different than parallel parenting, which a lot of people also get confused with co-parenting. Parallel parenting is when one parent has the child for a particular time of day, year, whenever you guys have set up in your parenting plan, and they live different lives when they're with different parents. Co-parenting is when you guys are working together but living separately to make sure that your children have what's best for them in their lives. So at the time when I was writing this letter, I was writing about a time when I had to send my children to their father. For a long time before that, I was what you would call a single parent, where their father was pretty much not involved in their lives, or very limited amount of time that he had in their lives, where all decisions and everything was made by me. The decision was made when I had to then send my children to their father to stay due to my younger son at that time having PTSD. He developed PTSD because we lived in a city that had a lot of high crime. And during that high crime time, there was moments where he would see on the news a lot of people his age were dying. He would see police killing teenagers. He saw teenagers killing teenagers. He saw babies and youth dying in fires. And then he also seen that situation which really put him over the edge when a 12-year-old killed another 12-year-old over a Facebook post over some girl. That was right around the age that he was when he was 12, when he decided that he no longer wanted to live in the city. He wanted to leave. He wanted to go and live with his father, who lived in a state that had less crime. So he researched it and seen that where his dad lived had less crime, and he wanted to go and stay with his father. Then became a hard decision for me because I had him all of this time and I was taking care of him, and his father was not around and not involved. I then had to make the decision that this was what was best for my son. So I then called dad and decided to have a conversation with dad about allowing them to come and stay. Dad was more than willing and able to allow them to come and stay with him. But there was the one problem of the way he was living. I did not agree with the way he was living because it was very unstable. Not that it was unsafe, it just was unstable to where he would always be moving from different place to place, and he never was settled into the same place. We began to have conversations about, will this change? Will you be able to stay in one location so my children can stay in one place and not have to be moved around? Stability was one of the things that I felt was very important to my children and their well-being, especially with him having the PTSD, him having the same place to stay and grow safely at, and to feel like he's loved, cared for, and safe was very important. Something different. This is how he makes his lifestyle. This is how he makes his money. And it would be very hard for him to change that aspect of his lifestyle due to the fact that this is how he makes his money, by moving around. We then had to bring in mutual parties to help us to see each other's point of view. So then that way, once the boys were down there, that both of us will feel safe and comfortable being able to co-parent and know that our children are safe and being together. So with that, we then began to discuss it and have a conversation. So for a year, the boys stayed down there with their father, and then to help to make that transition so they are in a same place and that stability, me and my husband at that time then moved to where they were. So then that way, my son now has both his parents co-parenting in the same place where he can now feel safe. So where I can provide the stability and staying in the same place, but he also has his father who is there to help him, to keep him comfort, supported, and safe. So then we began to co-parent to where we were able to call each other and be like, oh, hey, I'm in this meeting. Are you able to pick them up from whatever sports activity that they were in? We were all like a big happy family to where even their father and his significant other at that time was able to just work as a big happy family. So we began to co-parent not only with the children that we had together, but we began to make it one big happy family, co-parenting with everyone. So that was my first beginning experience with co-parenting. Just know that I am still learning to co-parent just like you. So just remember that co-parenting is not asking permission, but it's about discussing what our children needs are and coming up with the best decision for our children. Sincerely, still learning, Denna Michelle, a co-parent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome our guest for today's episode of Co-Parenting. I have with me Jerron Triggs, who is an IT cloud engineer. He is a loving father, and he believes that the greatest challenge in life is discovering who you are and being happy with what you find. So, is there anything else you would like to tell us about you?
No, thank you very much for that introduction. I am glad to be a part of this podcast, and thank you for having me. And I just like to make sure that, I share any type of information that can help others deal with similar situations that I've been in. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. And, for the sake of, I don't have permission from everybody, you do not have to discuss your other partner or co-parenting's name, and you don't have to say your children's name as well, because I don't have, the rights to that as well, unless you're giving me permission. However, you don't have to. So you can just say, your first co-parent, your second co-parent, you can say oldest son, youngest son, whatever. So you don't have to use anybody's name if you don't want to.
Okay.
So the first question that I have is, what does co-parenting look like to you?
Co-parenting for me, because I am a co-parent of two kids, two different mothers. And so co-parent for me is a little different because, I have to find a way to be able to manage being a co-parent to two children with two different mothers. And so being able to help raise my kids without emotionally damaging them is very important. And that's a big thing that I try to look forward to doing, and being a good co-parent in a way that it doesn't affect the child or the children.
So then I have a question that is not on what I gave you because of something you just said. So with co-parent, do you think that co-parenting is always something like where you're divorced and not with the parents or separated? Or do you think co-parenting also should exist when you guys are married, still living in the same household?
That's a good question. I always thought about it as when you're divorced or separated. I mean, I don't think technically it is co-parenting when you're still with someone, or if you're in a relationship with someone. I mean, you guys are co-parenting still, but the dynamics of you being divorced or separated, it kind of puts the co-parent into perspective, because you're no longer staying in the same household, and now the rules are different. They're not really the same, or I guess you don't communicate in the same way that you used to when you were together. So now things are, kind of separated and different as far as how you want to raise your child or the children. And it just has an effect on it being a way that it's separated than it is being together.
What should a co-parent not do? So what are some things that you would give some tips for other co-parents out there not to do?
I really don't think a co-parent should judge the other co-parent. They should not judge them on how they raise their child or their children, as opposed to how you would raise your child or your children. Now that the co-parenting has begun through the separation phase, now that parent has their own rules and regulations, and there is no reason for me or anyone to judge how that parent does things. And I don't think a co-parent should share information with the child that would hurt the other co-parent. So, for example, if I was to tell my kid negative things about any one of my co-parenting mothers, I don't think that would be fair to them for me to do that, because I think that's kind of leading that child on into thinking that, one parent is better than the other. And that's not the case.
So I hear no negative talking about the co-parent to children. And I also kind of heard in there, don't ask a child kind of like to take sides.
Correct.
Anything else that co-parenting should not do?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff co-parents shouldn't do, but I think those are the two biggest things.
The biggest thing. So I do have a couple of things that co-parenting should not do, which is they should not use that child, which you was kind of hinting on it, to not be a spy for the other ones too. So like what your daddy was doing this weekend, what your mama was doing this weekend, where they at, where they going, like that should be something else that they shouldn't have the child to do as well, is kind of be like that spy. Some other things that I do, because I'm also co-parenting. I have two different people that I'm co-parenting with, is like withholding the child. So like I am a mother, and a lot of us moms tend to not let the kids go with their dads because of they didn't pay child support, or they don't like me anymore, or they're not with me. And I feel like that is probably one of the biggest things or biggest mistakes that women do, is withholding their child from the dad. I have never withheld my kids from any of the dads, except for when I felt like it was in jeopardy of my children's safety. So that may have been the only time that I'm like, I'm not allowing them to go, is if I feel like it was interfering with their safety. Other than that, I let my kids go with their fathers. And I feel like that is something else that co-parents, especially women, but there may be some dads out there who do it, is to not kind of withhold their kids from the other parent.
Oh, I actually do see that a lot. That is a big deal. I mean, I don't go through that with any of my co-parents, but I have witnessed that happening to some of my friends and family as well. I do have a family member who have withheld their child from the child's dad, and I've seen how it really, really affects the child. And that child growing up just thinking that the dad never wanted to be in his life, when in actuality, the mom was the one that was withholding, that child from seeing his dad. And, I think that's fairly wrong to do. And I don't know how, a child can really bounce back from that, other than having that opportunity to talk to their dad or their mom and kind of getting a full understanding of the situation and how things went, then it would be up to that child to, kind of make a decision whether, they can forgive or not forgive.
And even more so for that, it still is harmful for the child because then the child is missing that other parent. So even if they do have a bonus parent, bonus mom, bonus dad in their life, it still affects the child to where their biological father was not or mother was not in their life. So it does affect them, and they need to have that relationship with as many positive adults around them as possible, especially those who gave birth to them. So it is very important that they do have the relationship with them, like I said, unless it's for their own safety. And then with that being the case, then that co-parent needs to let the children know that, for your safety, I'm not letting you go over there with your father, mother. Not that they're a horrible or mean person. It's just for your own safety. I'm not allowing you to go over there. Maybe next visit, maybe next time you'll be able to go over there. And their own safety does not mean that that parent does not have enough money, don't have food, don't have none of that. Because if y'all were together and live together, they still will have to be in your house and be in that. So even if the other parent does not have, enough food, enough money to take care of them, that still is not a thing of their safety. If they're being, they should still be able to go over there and have a relationship with that parent. If anything, you as the co-parent should be sending food and stuff with them if that is the case. So that is not their safety. And then another big thing that co-parentings I feel like should not do is make promises to the kids and then have them fall through. So getting the kids' hopes up and being like, oh, okay, I'm gonna come get you and take you to State Fair, or I'm gonna come get you and we're gonna go to Great America. And then they never come and get the kid because then again, that pushes that kid away and has that kid to have trust issues, even with that parent, but even with other adults and other people around them. They're going to feel like all adults are going to make these promises and won't keep them. So that's another thing. And then the last one that I have is being inconsistent with the agreement of whatever plan that you guys came up with. We need to make sure that if putting a parenting plan together is important and key, whatever plan you guys come up with as co-parenting, but then also making sure that you're sticking to that plan. And if something does happen, making sure that you guys discuss what that is before it's supposed to happen in a plan. So then that way it's a way it can be discussed and helped so that it still is effective for the children, because that's ultimately what co-parenting is making sure, like you said earlier, that the children are getting all of their needs met. So then our next question that we had was, how do you co-parent when your former spouse partner is being difficult?
What do you mean by being difficult?
Whatever your definition of difficult can be. I know a lot of people feel like co-parenting difficulties are where, again, they don't want you to get the child because you didn't pay child support. And I know you said that has not been your experience, but it has been some of your friends. Another difficulty that someone said is when they don't want to, well, is from a woman, but they was like, when the dad does not want to pay child support, how do you get them to pay child support? And then the dad said, how do you get them to allow you to see your child if they feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to do and they don't let you see the child, which I know is not your experience, but you have probably talked to other males regarding that one.
I guess the definition of difficult could be in many forms and fashions of the situation. And so how do I co-parent when I find my former spouse or partner to be difficult? I mean, I think there's been a few situations where I found it kind of difficult to where my co-parent was being a bit difficult for me. And how I kind of addressed that was I really had to think about the situation and what I was doing to possibly make them be difficult towards me being a co-parent. And then if I found it that it was my doing or it was something that I was doing, then I kind of took a step back and made them understand that I realize, what I'm doing in this situation and I need to rectify it. I need to figure out how I can do this better. But if I found that it wasn't me and they were just being difficult, I try not to take it personal, and I try to figure out a way to deflect them being difficult towards the situation, and figure out a way for me to just continue to focus on being a co-parent and making sure that I'm able to do the things that I need to do for my child or for my children. And so I know that many times it may be hard for other men or other women to look at things that way, and they'll take a different approach to it. But I'm more of I don't like confrontation. So if there is anything that I can do to avoid any type of confrontation, especially if there's children involved, then I'll find a way to do it.
Next question was, how do you co-parent while you're in a relationship? So if you are, because you said you have two, so at one point in time you had a co-parent and you were splitting up from one relationship and you started a relationship with some wonderful, amazing, awesome woman. And then how did you go about co-parenting with that and like introducing your child to the person who you're in a relationship with?
Yeah, that was difficult because one, I've never been in that situation. And then two, it was weird because you would think that the co-parent would be acceptive to the situation of you dating someone else when, that relationship is not even there anymore. But for sometimes co-parents may still have some type of jealousy or some type of feelings for that person. And so they make it really difficult for that situation. But I think I've learned that communicating is the best thing to do, and trying to communicate to both the co-parent and to your current spouse or the person you're in a relationship with is key to having a good co-parenting relationship. However, some co-parents just don't care. They don't care what type of communication you bring to them about, your relationship. I mean, if they don't care, they don't care. They can still make it difficult for you. And so I think having a communication with your current spouse or the person you're in a relationship with, and having an understanding that, this co-parent is not being cordial, they're being disrespectful or whatever, and coming up with a way or a plan that you two are going to address it and still being able to move forward with your relationship without having interference with that other co-parent.
Communication is pretty much how you deal with co-parenting in a relationship, is making sure you're communicating with your previous partner or your child's co-parent, and then, with the new person who you're with in a relationship, communicating and being open to them about the past relationship as well as that. So a follow-up question to that, how did you know it was the right time to introduce your new person to either the co-parent or to your child?
I don't know. I feel like if you see yourself having a long-term relationship with that person, then I think the right time is always, right then and there. Once you have that in your heart that this is the person that I want to be with. So, I want you to meet my children, or I want you to meet my child. But if you're not sure about it, I don't think that you should do that, because it kind of affects everything, the whole dynamics of co-parenting and the current relationship that you're in. So I think it's knowing for sure and having an understanding that even if you want to take time, you want to communicate that to your current partner, that I want to take time to see if this is going to go somewhere before, I introduce you to my kids.
What do you think is the secret to making co-parenting work?
Well, communication. I think that is always the secret. They say that's the secret to any relationship, and co-parenting is a relationship. And so you have to have communication. I don't know if there's any other secret to it.
So then what if people are very ineffective at communicating? What are some things that they can do to make their communication better? Because I've been known to be horrible at communicating.
I think you have to learn how to communicate. Learn how to communicate the way your spouse communicates, I guess, or your co-parent communicates. So learn their language or their communicating ways and try to communicate that way.
So then what is the issue is like your communication style is, I want to have a phone conversation. So you call me every time you need to communicate something to me. However, your co-parenting style is I'd rather email it to you so I have it written down in documentation form. So if you try and come back on me, I got this documentation now that it's been documented in this email. How do you go about that where the communication styles are different, where you want to send an email to the person to communicate, here's our plan, this is what we had, this is our parenting plan, we're sticking to this, when the other parent no, I'd rather have a conversation with you over the telephone or FaceTime so I can hear you, see you, and know exactly what your facial and feelings are and tone is when you're telling me this.
I guess finding a balance with them both, being able to have a communicate or in-person or over the phone conversation, and being able to have a email or text message, and kind of balancing that out and making sure that both of you understand how you're trying to relay whatever message you're trying to relay. Just having an understanding that this is how I'm trying to do it. This is how it's going to be between us as a co-parent, and getting that final, okay, we both understand the situation. We both understand the deal, regardless of how it was presented.
So finding a balance, does it mean possibly even in that balance where you have that phone conversation and then being like, okay, I'm gonna follow up with the email just so I have my form of communication?
Yeah.
When both of them can possibly be one of them. So then the next question that we have kind of goes into something to discuss where it's like, even with that email and that communication, is the parenting plan. So kind of like, what is a parenting plan and how do you use it? Because we've been saying that kind of a lot, talking about the parenting plan. So what kind of is that?
I don't know what about a parenting plan because I've never really done that before. And I guess having a parenting plan could work, but I think it still depends on if the co-parents are able to communicate that plan in a way that both of them can be effective to doing it. When you come up with a plan, you have to agree on it, right? You have to both agree on that plan. So I still think communicating in a way that both parents can come to an understanding and agreement about that plan is very important.
So the parenting plan is just pretty much what y'all communicate on what y'all going to do with y'all children. So it's y'all communicating, y'all came up with this plan to where, oh, I'm going to get them on this birthday this year. I'm going to file them on my taxes for this school this year. And then you file them on this tax year. I get them winters, breaks, summers, or I get them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's just the parenting plan where you guys put together how you're going to plan on parenting. I'm going to keep them on my insurance. So when they're with me, they use my insurance. And when they're with you, they use your insurance. So they're on both insurance plans. So just whatever your plan is after you're long together for the best interest of the child or with the children.
Okay. I don't think that plan always happens. I think that plan usually, yeah, I think that plan, it gets put together and then after a while it doesn't get followed for some reason. I don't know why.
You don't know why it gets followed?
I don't know why it doesn't.
Or it's not followed. If you had one and then it stopped being followed, what happened?
I don't know. I guess life happens and things change. And so sometimes you just really can't abide by some of the stuff that's on the plan just because of how things changed in life. So again, I guess it falls back to communicating where, hey, this happened. And so I'm not able to do this month, or I'm not able to provide this because I can't have insurance because I don't have a job, or I can't pay this because I don't have a job. So communicating that to avoid the complications of that plan being messed up is important. But if you don't communicate those things, the other co-parent is thinking, well, why are you not following this plan? And they just think that you're being a-hole or you're being difficult because of whatever.
So yeah, that is probably the biggest key thing is communication. And then when life happens, changing the plan. Even after you get divorced, or even if you weren't divorced and you never was together and y'all have a kid, revisiting the plan and redoing the plan and changing the plan is always good. Again, everything is in the best interest of the child or the children. So just making sure that the plan is revisited and changed. And if there is a lot of difficulties, you can go ahead and go to the courts and file a motion to get it amended and amend the parenting plan. So that way it is put back on, the court's record that this is what the plan is if it gets to such a difficult point to where you do need to go back to court to make sure that that parenting plan has been updated. But if you guys are communicating and you're open about it, just, being open about the plan and verbally communicating with each other or sending that email or however you guys communicate, that this what needs to change as far as the parenting plan goes. So then we're going to go to the next one. Do you have some type of like co-parenting boundaries?
I don't know. Maybe if you can elaborate that word boundaries for me.
So like, for instance, boundaries can be like religion is another one of those things where people, it's a sticky situation. So you have the boundaries of, okay, I don't want my child doing this type of thing because it's for my religion. So that's my boundary to where I don't want you crossing this line. So like when they come with me, they're going to go to church with me. So when they're not with you, that's fine that they don't go. But my boundary is when they're with me to go to church, or vice versa, where I don't believe in God. And so my boundary is I don't want you taking, them or whatever. So do you have any boundaries as far as that, or as far as like college go, where, they going to college? I don't give a care. No if and buts about it. The boundaries is they going to college, they going to school. So things that there's like pretty much no turning back from it. Like this is what it is.
No, I never really had boundaries like that. I've been open to anything, everything for my kids. I'm a Christian. I consider myself a Christian and I love God. So church is not a big deal for me. And I don't think that if the co-parent is really strict on certain ways when the child is with them, I mean, again, I think that goes back to judging. I don't want to judge how they live their life or with the things that they do with our child. I mean, that's their decision. But if it's things that will affect the child negatively, then yes, I will have some type of say so and input in what they're doing. And so I think it's important to express those boundaries and the things that you may feel that you don't approve of. But ultimately, I think it's up to that parent to make that decision in what they do.
So you don't have boundaries. Do any of your co-parents have boundaries to where they like, these are things that you absolutely can't do or, say anything about? And how do you deal with those?
No, I don't think any of my co-parents have really, really strict boundaries. I don't live a certain way of life that would give my co-parents any type of idea that I'm putting my child in, any type of harm or danger, or that they're not being raised in a certain way. So I don't really have any thoughts on that because it kind of don't affect me in a way.
So just for those who may have problems with, setting boundaries, make sure you do set boundaries, or if there are things out there that may cause you to be that difficult parent or in conflict within yourself. So making sure that you do set those boundaries if you have some. So as far as religion goes, college or schooling goes, making sure you set those boundaries. Some people have a boundary where how they want their children to present themselves and how they want them to look, like as far as making sure that their hair is cut so often, making sure that they dress a certain way in their clothes or whatever. So those are some boundaries that people have, to where they want to have. Some people have mental health boundaries where, don't call my phone after such and such time, if it's an emergency and you don't have the kids or whatever, like don't call me. So like whatever those boundaries are, making sure that you set those boundaries. And again, like Jerron has been saying throughout the whole thing, make sure that you're communicating those things to them. And then if those boundaries are not being able to be met, making sure that they're in the parenting plan, that the parenting plan is filed with the court system. So that way, if they're not being held up, that you guys can go to court to be able to make sure that that is being able, or not even necessarily court. It can also be with a mediator who can be someone who you guys both trust and can meet in front of to go ahead and discuss those things. So that way those don't turn into conflicts, which will then trickle down and affect your child or your children who you so care for. And ultimately this is who it's for. So what do you feel is like the best way of co-parenting outside of communication?
To not become a co-parent. I mean, I'm in that situation though.
What do you mean by not be a co-parent? What do you mean?
To either not have kids or to not get separated or divorced.
So stand together.
Yes, staying together. That would be the best way. But we
But
know
I
life.
still feel like being married to somebody and being with somebody, I still feel like it's still co-parenting, still in some aspects need to be there, not necessarily with a whole full parenting plan written out and filed in the courts, but there's still certain aspects of even being in a relationship, how people want to raise their children differently and can still be together.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. And co-parenting is different when you're a stepfather or a stepmom. And I don't even know if that's considered co-parenting, but
But if you're still together and you still live in the same household, then it still would necessarily be not co-parenting, because as I like to call this, like a bonus family, to where now it's not just, in some instances, it's up to 4 people trying to help and raise this child versus just the 2 people, or it's 3 people. So it's a group of people coming together. But I feel like in that situation, in that case, the bonus parent should step away and most likely should be agreeing with whatever the parent in their household is wanting for the best interest of the child. Again, as long as it's not harming the child and their safety, they should be agreeing with what the parent who they are in the house with is, unless again it's harmful to the child. And then that parenting should most likely be between the two, the biological mom and the biological dad. And then that parent is, I like to call, I don't like to say step, because step is always the evil stepmom off Snow White. I think that's the fairy tale. And so people are also viewed the step parent as this evil person who coming in and taking the parent away from them. And I like to look at it as it being a bonus where they're helping you and it's adding one extra person to your village of people who are taking care of you. So that's how I like to look at it versus step. But I'm talking about in the instance where it's biological mom and a biological dad, and they live together in the same house and they have rules and things that don't go together. So like, how do you co-parent with that? Because that's, you just said that, just staying together. But I'm like, I still feel like there's still that, and it's not necessarily co-parenting, but it is co-parenting, but it's just parenting in that instance. So it still has that conflict and staying together. But the original question was, so what is another way for being able to be a good co-parent?
So for new parents, maybe learning how to be a parent and not parenting the way that your mom and dad were parents to you. You know what I'm trying to say? Like not taking the things that they've done and not applying that to your child, because I think there's a big difference in how our parents used to be parents to us to how we are parents to our kids now, because of just the whole changing of life and the way things are. So now I think it would be great for us to learn how to be parents in the new age. And so that's adapting to certain situations, understanding how kids today move and how they do things, and the certain ways that society is playing a part in their lives, and just trying to adapt as parents and giving them the ability to, I guess, have their own way of living, and still trying to have a structure in place to be able to be good co-parents or be good parents to them without making things difficult. So I guess I'm trying to say learning the new ways of parenting.
Okay. So summing it all up, we had Jerron, and he told us, as far as co-parenting go, above all, make sure that we're keeping your child or your children first. So that's pretty much seems real basic and real simple. No matter what you're feeling, how you're doing, always think in the back of your mind, is this in the best interest of my child or children? And then again, showing love and support to your kids and helping them is great and awesome. And then in some ways, shape, form, or fashion. He was saying, be respectful, making sure that you're the parenting plan, making sure that you're sticking to that. And if you can't communicate in that, he was also saying, be respectful of boundaries. He's a person who does not like a lot of conflict. So he is very quick to not be a part of that, and making sure that he's maintaining being respectful. So for us to make sure that we are being respectful to the co-parentings and recognizing the roles that they have in the child's life, being cooperative. So, showing up, working together, being that team player all throughout the time. So whether you're together, not together, transitioning out, just making sure that you're cooperating. And his big takeaway, which should be for everybody, is being committed to communication. So making sure that we're communicating, whether we're co-parenting or, as we like to call it, parallel parenting, which is living in that same household with them. Showing some level of communication is a must for the sake of your children. This means, again, all of those important things, whether you need to change the schedule or not change the schedule, significant things as far as school goes, insurance, money, finances, or even a little simple thing as, I am going to be staying late for work. Can you go pick them up from school? So those are some of the tips that we have gotten from Jerron to say that. And then I like to end with our famous question that we ask everybody here. What is your imperfectly perfect co-parenting moment?
My imperfectly perfect co-parenting moment?
Yes.
I have to say, being able to get along with both of my co-parents and being able to continue to still have I'd say, not a bad relationship with them, but a good relationship with them in regards to co-parenting and being there for both of my kids. Because just because the relationships wasn't perfect and they didn't end well, you kind of expect that co-parenting will be the same way. It won't be perfect and it's not going to be well, but in actuality, you take these tips and the things that kind of help in life, or what we've been talking about, communicating and being respectful and not judging, then that brings over a different aspect of co-parenting, which kind of make things in a better way. And so I think that has been one of my imperfectly perfect co-parenting moments, is being able to be on good terms and still be able to be in a child's life with both of my co-parents.
Okay. If anybody wanted to get in contact with you as far as either your IT things that you have going on, or any more advice as far as being a father and getting some of that advice, co-parenting advice, where can they contact you at?
They can contact me at Jeron.Triggs. That's JERON.TRIGGS@gmail.com. And they can just send me a email, just asking me any questions, or if they have any IT needs, they can send me an email about some issues that they may be having, and I'd be able to assist them with that.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our amazing episode of Co-Parenting with Jeron Triggs. If you need any more information, or if you would like to be a guest, or you would like to donate or sponsor, you can go to our website, www.dennamichelle.com, or you can also visit us on social media platforms at Denna Michelle. Thank you.